Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. It's your brother Joshua back with another quick coffee break and a quick exhortation for the brothers and sisters in the truth. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and all glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, right? And I wanted to come with a lesson through the spirit of, especially toward the men, to work with your hands, right? Always have a mind to work with your hands, right? Meaning you always have to do your own thing and not depend on someone else to take care of you, right? And it's mainly for the men, but it's for the sisters as well, right? Because if you're a single sister, or a single mother, whatever it is, and you're of age and able to take care of yourself, you have to be able to do thus. It's just to take care of yourself, because ain't nobody, especially nowadays, going to give you any handouts. They're not going to take care of you. They're not just going to sit around and let you, just do whatever you please and just hand feed you all day long, and you're not putting forth any effort or anything like that. A lot of Jake, has been known to sit around and up under a woman and do nothing. Sit around and play PlayStation all day long while the woman is toiling and reaping and sowing and laboring, and sweating and, back breaking work and coming home and taking care of the household, things of that nature. And Jake ain't, he ain't lifted a muscle. He couldn't even run the vacuum to sweep the floor, and Jake is sitting back cracking his toes and watching Netflix all day or playing 2K, right? But the Lord said, cats like that, you gonna go hungry, literally. If you're gonna go hungry if you decide to sit around and not work with your hands. And the Lord don't respect that anyway, especially from a man, right? So I'm gonna get this in the book of Genesis real quick. What the Lord said, after Cain, they went off, Adam, and it says, this is Genesis, right? This is the curse of Cain. But it says Genesis 3:19, it says, in the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for the dust thou art, and unto the dust thou shalt return. So this is for, just mankind, not the curse of Cain, but, for mankind, for going off and going contrary to the Most High. The Lord said, for sweat, you're going to toil from the sweat of your brow, right? And you're going to have to get it out of the mud, as they say. It ain't going to come to you easy, because the Lord gave you a chance to, allow food to grow for free and things of that nature and have an abundance and live in paradise and things like that. But when our forefathers fell, the Lord cursed the ground and said, look, now you're going to have to toil and you're going to have to dig and plant and sow and things of that nature in order for you to eat. You're going to have to put forth your hand to reap the benefits. And so much so today in life, right, which is turns into the modern day plantation, which is your jobs that you're on. You have to get up and go and work and labor for that money to come in so you can put food on the table, right, and things of that nature. So you can't be caught up in the attitude or the lifestyle of thinking, I'm just going to sit back and rely on another man to, provide for me, or a woman to provide for me. That's wicked, right? That's real wicked. The Lord don't deal with slothful men, right, that refuse to put their hands to the plow, right, to get it for them, and especially their family. In all aspects of life, walking in this truth with getting the word, and physical, work and things of that nature. The Lord don't deal with that slothful spirit, right? But let me get this in the book of Sirach, right, chapter 40 and verse number 28, and it says, my son, lead not a beggar's life, for better it is to die than to beg. So the Lord said it's better for you to die, man, than to be a beggar out here, right? Because eventually that's what you're going to do anyway. If you're just sitting around waiting for somebody else to take care of you, hey, people going to get tired of that, digging in their pockets to feed you. And you a grown man. Here you are, 35 years old, sitting up in somebody's house, waiting on them to cook you a meal. And you ain't bust a grape, right? And it says, the life of him that dependeth on another man's table is not to be counted for a life. For he polluteth himself with other men's meat. But a wise man, well nurtured, will beware thereof. Begging is sweet in the mouth of the shameless, but in his belly there shall burn a fire. So, a natural beggar, the one that don't have no type of wisdom and he don't care about nothing, hey, he gonna sit around and he gonna sit up in another man's house. He gonna take up space. Whether his mother's house, his grandmother's house, whatever it is, he gonna take up space. And he gonna complain about things going on around him. Why dinner ain't on time? Why this place ain't cleaned up, things of that nature. That's a foolish man. But the Lord said his belly's gonna burn. Right? Your belly is gonna burn. Because eventually you're gonna come up with them hunger pains, brother. You're going to have to deal with them hunger pains. At the end of the day, you might be treated well for an instant, but that time is going to pass, right? Nobody's going to take care of you for life, right? They're going to get tired of your foolishness, your laziness, your antics, right? And you taking up space thereof. And then the Lord said, your belly's going to start burning, man. You're going to end up, inheriting the wind that the Lord say, What's that in Proverbs? He that troubleth the house shall inherit the wind. Right? Paraphrasing. So you're going to mess around and get kicked out. You're going to be in them streets, hey, and you're going to have them hunger pains in the end of the days, man. Right? So you got to labor. You don't want to, be banqueting upon other man's pockets and things of that nature. Right? So let's stay in Sirach. Let's go to the chapter 18 real quick. All right? It's the book of Sirach, chapter 18 and verse 33. And it says, be not made a beggar by banqueting upon borrowing, when thou hast nothing in thy purse, for thou shalt lie in wait for thine own life to be talked on. Right? So when you ain't got no money to give, why are you asking for somebody else's pockets, man? You always, hey, can I get $5, man? I gotta, go to the corner store and give me a pack of Rellos, a beer or something, man. I know a lot of brothers that were like that coming up. Always patting their pockets, acting like they done dropped something, wondering, hey, man, hey, can I borrow that $10 real quick, man? I'll hook it back, so-and-so, things of that nature. Let me, hey, always asking you, woman, hey, before you leave after work, can you leave me $25? I need to get, me a sack and, a couple Rellos, things like that, man, so I can, be set up for the day. That's wicked, man. Always trying to find the next meal. I got to go to McDonald's and hey, hit the dollar menu up. I don't even think they got a dollar menu at McDonald's no more, man. So Jake really finna be in trouble out here. But it says again, be not made a beggar by banqueting upon borrowing, when thou hast nothing in thy purse. So you can't sitting around asking people for something when your pockets is empty, man. You coming up with nothing but lint in your pockets, man. And you building your house upon somebody else's, money, man. Everything that you get, you trying to put towards what you need, man. Right? What's that? In Sirach 21, right? In verse number 8, it says, he that buildeth his house with another man's money is like one that gathereth himself stones for a tomb of his burial. Because, man, like you said, the Lord already said you might as well die, man. You might as well be a dead man walking around. And then some people, look, they don't be playing about their cash flow. You coming in and borrowing money and say you're going to give it back in an X amount of time, and you don't show up with that flow or interest that, that person wants back. Hey, man, he might meet you with some type of wrath or anger, and he might pull out that thing on you, man, and lay you down. or do something bad to you or somebody you love, things of that nature. People don't play about their money. And you walking around here begging and building your life on another man's pockets. And you don't have nothing in your pockets but lint, right? Talking about you going to pay that back. And guess what? When that date comes up, you ain't got it. And it's always some type of, excuse. It's an excuse to every time. You always, hey, man, I would have had it, but man, something came up and I had to do this, X, Y, and Z, oh, so and so called me and I had to do this and that, this big, it's always an excuse, man. The Lord said, look, man, it's like you gathering stones for your own tombstone, man. Right? You laying down your grave nicely. And you got to be aware of that, right? Let's get to stay in Sirach, man. Sirach is powerful, man. Right? Let's go to chapter 4 and verse 31. It says, let not thine hand be stretched out to receive, and shut when thou shouldest repay. And that's playing upon tables, man. The Lord said, don't have your hand always stretched out ready to get something from somebody. But when they need that back, or if they ask you of some type of, funds that they may need, but when it's time for you, to give something, hey, your hands closed. Hey, I ain't got it. Or no, man, I'm straight, man. I need this little change I got or whatever. Your hands always closed, man. You can't be blessed that way, man. The Lord said he loves a cheerful giver, right? And the Lord said you're nothing. You can have all the knowledge, as far as the precepts and, things of that nature. But if you don't have charity, you're nothing. You're not giving alms and things of that nature. The Lord ain't dealing with you, man. Right? Let me see if I can remember that precept. Escaped my mind. Let me see if I can remember that real quick where that's at. Bear with me 1 second. I believe it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 13 of verse 2, it says, and though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains, and I have not charity, I am nothing. Right? So though you have all these attributes and these things, right, these gifts, but yet you don't have any type of charity, right? You don't have the willpower to give back or to give on your own free will, right? Being selfless, rather, and things of that nature. Man, the Lord said you ain't nothing, man. You're nothing. Right? So you can't have your hand poked out all the time, always asking for something. And then next thing you turn back, hey, I ain't got it. All right, that's wicked, man. That's evil, and know a lot of brothers like that, man, that refuse to give back. Right? This is Psalms 37 and verse 21. It says, the wicked borroweth and payeth not again, but the righteous sheweth mercy and giveth. Right? So it says, the wicked borroweth and payeth not again, but the righteous sheweth mercy and giveth. Right? So the righteous man, a commandment keeping, faith having Israelite, is going to give that money back, man, on his free will. Or if he happens to borrow something and need that, he's going to make sure he gives that back in due time. Right? And that's a righteous man. That's a blessed man. But a wicked man borroweth, and he refused to get that thing back. He all of a sudden he done forgot that he borrowed that money. And now it's contention. Man, I ain't never borrowed that money from you, man. What you talking about? I don't remember that. Now instead of a brother, instead of a friend, now you done made an enemy. Because you refuse to pay what you owe, man. Now you're an enemy. And that's wicked as heck, man. So if you don't put your hand to the plow and, work on your own will, and provide for yourself, then you're gonna go hungry, man. The Lord said your stomach is going to burn. And you got to remember that. You cannot have a lazy mentality, right? And then call yourself a man of God. First of all, that's off. But just a man, period, and you don't provide for your own self, right? That's not manly at all, brother. Let's get what's that, Second Thessalonians, right? Let's get Second Thessalonians real quick. Right, it's the book of Second Thessalonians, chapter 3 and verse number 10. It says, "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat." Right? Again, playing upon tables, a commandment. If don't nobody work, they can't eat. Right? It's only a certain amount of time that you're going to be so-called taken care of or tolerated. Right? Being especially in somebody else's household, sleeping on the couch or whatever it is you're doing, because you can't be on your own. And if you ain't got no job or nothing like that, you ain't paying no rent, you ain't putting no food in your household, your gas in your car, if you got one, things of that nature. So if you don't work, you can't eat. And that's simple. It's no rhyme or reason to that. It's not anything that's, too high for a man to understand. A fool will understand that. If I don't put my hand to the plow and go out and do something and get it how I live, then I can't eat. Especially if you have a family. That's the worst. If a man has a family and he can't provide for his family, then what are you doing, man? You just out here. And Jake got that bad, being out here laying up under, sisters hopping to and fro, laying in, and having children here and there and things like that, and leaving them and not providing and things of that nature. And it's worse that you so-called been in this truth and you're not providing for your family, on a spiritual level or on a physical level, as if you don't even believe in this thing, man. You don't believe in the Most High, man. All right. And that's what the Lord say in 1 Timothy, man. Right, in 1 Timothy, the classic. It says 1 Timothy 5 and verse 8. It says, "But if any provide not for his own, especially for those of his own house, he have denied the faith and is worse than an infidel," man. You're worse than a non-believer, man. Because the Lord had already told you, a fool has said in his heart there is no God. And that's what you believe in, that there is no God. Because you're not putting forth any type of effort, any type of work to prove that. Right? And usually a lazy man that's out here in the world that doesn't do anything for himself or his family, he's not going to be on fire in the truth either. He's not going to be on fire for the Lord. He's not, because his traits and his attributes are going to carry on into this truth. If he can't get himself in order and do what needs to be done, right, and stand up as a man, then, those traits are going to carry on right onto this walk. And you're not going to be successful. Eventually, you're going to fall away because you can't be consistent. You can't be, what's the word? You can't be counted on, right? You can't, your family can't look at you for any type of succor, any type of guidance, any type of leadership, help, any of those things, right? And it's just, it's just not going to work for you. So if you're not providing for your family, for yourself, things of that nature, then you gotta repent, brother. You gotta come up out of that, man. You gotta come up out of that, man. Let's get this real quick. Skip my mind, right? But Lord willing to come back to me. But that, it's a selfish mentality, at the end of the day, especially if you have a family, things of that nature. It's really a selfish mentality that a brother can have, and that's a very terrible trait. Let me get this. It popped up. Let me get this real quick. I don't even want to. Let's see, Sirach chapter 14. Let's see. Sirach chapter 14. And I want to. That ain't what I want. Salakia, 1 second. It's not what I wanted. Let me get Salakia, right? Let me see. Let me get this real quick. In Ecclesiastes, right? The book of Ecclesiastes, right? Because this is how you really want to be, right? As a selfless man, right? Being able to, even if you're borrowing money and things of that nature, being able to give those things back. And then even in the instant, even if you're just, giving alms, or, you're allowing someone to borrow money or things of that nature, you always remember that these things are going to come back to you, through the Lord. The Spirit, the Lord is going to be able to reward you when he see you being selfless and you're giving, you have that charitable spirit, and things of that nature. That's loving your neighbor as yourself, because you don't mind, helping when help is needed and things of that nature. And you always got to remember that in tough times, who done things for you, right? So whenever someone else falls on hard times, you can be there for them, because once, again, you can fall on hard times again, and those individuals that you took care of is going to remember those deeds and be able to bless you as well, because the Lord is always going to keep those deeds in his heart, right? So let's go to Ecclesiastes, right? Chapter 11. I'm going to start at verse number 1. And it says, "Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south and toward the north, and in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be." So, right, it says, give a portion to 7, Slaki. It says, cast thy bread upon the waters, thou shalt find it after many days. So, don't be afraid to give your bread, meaning your money, right? To your brethren, if need be, because it says you will find it after many days. It's going to come back to you, right? That boomerang effect. What you do to somebody else, they're going to do unto you. What goes around comes around. What you sow, that you also reap, right? And it says, give a portion to 7 and also unto 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. So you don't know what times, may be around the corner for you. You might be falling on hard times and be in a position, right, of, can't pay your rent or something like that, and you're stuck or whatever it is, and you need a part for your vehicle or whatever it may be, and the Lord take care of you, via you helping someone else out. And then they come, hey, that money come out of nowhere, man, and somebody come and give you alms or whatever it may be, man. So always remember to be charitable, amongst your neighbors, and don't be selfish, but rather be selfless in these last days. Don't be a niggard with your money, right? And also know that, if you're not providing or working and doing things for yourself, you can't get it anyway. It's not going to come for you. It's not going to come back for you. So either way, you have to take care of yourself, and you have to take care of those that are around you, in these last days, man. You got to have a spirit like Tobit, man. And know that, these things also are good for, you know, blotting out some of your sins as well. Right? Matter of fact, let me get that in the book of, let's see. Right? Let's get this. The book of Tobit, chapter 4. Slovakia. The book of Tobit, chapter 4, and verse number, I'm going to start at verse number 7. It says, give alms of thy substance, and when thou givest alms, let not thine eye be envious, neither turn thy face from any poor, and the face of Yahweh shall not be turned away from thee. So remember, give alms to the poor, give alms to those that are in need, right? And don't be envious, man. Give, ungrievously, unbegrudgingly, if I'm saying that right. Right? Be willing, right? And selfless. And it says, the Lord is going to give those things back to you. And it says, and if thou hast an abundance, give alms accordingly. And if thou have but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little. For thou layest up a good treasure for thyself against the day of necessity, because thy alms do deliver from death, and suffer not to come unto darkness. So when you give alms, man, especially when you're not expecting things back from somebody, you're just allowing them to get those things because they need it more than you. The Lord said it's better to give than to receive. So you're just giving those things, to help build somebody else up. Hey, man, the Lord said those things blot out sins. Right? And the only way you're going to be able to give alms, again, at the end of the day, is being able to work. This money's not going to come out of thin air. You have to put your hand to the plow. You have to go, work for those things. And when you receive those things, you're able to, take care of the church, take care of your family, things of that nature. So you don't want to live a beggar's life, You want to be able to take care of yourself, first of all, as a man. And if you have a family, take care of your family. And the main thing is take care of the church. Give back to the Most High, because it's all the Most High's money at the end of the day. And what they say, shall a man rob God? So you just really want to be able to, be a man at the end of the day and don't live a beggar's life, right? And understand that these things are important as men. If you say you're a believer, you have to walk as a believer and show the Most High that you do believe, and not be counted as an infidel in these last days, man. Well, with that, I hope it was edifying. Take these precepts and apply them to your life. Don't live a beggar's life in these last days, man. Take care of yourself and take care of your people. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Shalom.